Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm outside the southeast branch of the Pratt Library in Highlandtown off of Eastern Avenue. And if you're looking behind me and thinking, that looks like a human head, a sculpture of a human head on a pole, you are correct. That is a bronze sculpture of the head of Baltimore native son and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member Frank Zappa. It's been here since 2010 when it was given to us by friends in Vilnius, Lithuania. It is a little bit of a crazy story, but one that has serious themes of freedom of speech and freedom from oppression. Let's work our way up to that by starting with a few words about the man at the center of our story, Frank Vincent Zappa. He was born here in Baltimore in 1940 in the 4600 block of Park Heights Avenue. He comes from a line of Sicilian immigrants. Italian was often spoken at home, and his father was a metallurgist with the U.S. Army. Young Frank used to play with stuff his father brought home, including globs of mercury that he would pound away on his bedroom floor. That, coupled with the radium pellets that were inserted into his nostrils to help cure sinus problems, maybe that wasn't so unusual in this new day of the atom back then, but it can't have been good. Frank's family moved to Harford County and then at age 10 to California, to Los Angeles, where he lived for the rest of his life. But he never forgot about his hometown of Baltimore. He apparently loved crab cakes, lapsed into a Baltimoreese accent every once in a while, and his 1985 song, What's New in Baltimore, is a tribute to our city. He got his musical start. As a teen in Los Angeles, he experimented with recording and as a musician, but he got his start in 1964 with the group The Mothers, that would go on to become called the Mothers of Invention. By the 1970s, he had 2 gold albums, one called Mothers and one called Apostrophe. And he went on, even though he died at a young age, 52 I believe, he went on to a prodigious career, producing over 60 albums. In one day alone in 1981, he released 4 albums on that single day, included the hit song with his daughter Moon Unit called Valley Girls, that gave the rest of us a glimpse into the life and vocabulary of the in crowd in Los Angeles at that time. In 1988, his album, Jazz Album from Hell, went on to win a Grammy Award. He was known for his versatility, composing in styles that range from doo-wop to jazz, from rock and roll to orchestral symphony, a really long and great career. His studio in Los Angeles also was known as producing future great rock and roll musicians, including Lowell George and Roy Estrada, who went on to form Little Feat, and Andrew Bellew, the great guitarist who played with David Bowie and the Talking Heads. Zappa died in 1993 of prostate cancer and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995. His music was known for its erratic progressions and offbeat, often verging on vulgar lyrics. It was favored by serious musicians and outsiders alike. So that was Zappa the musician. In addition to that, he was known and was a champion of free speech and freedom of expression. For example, in 1985, Tipper Gore, Vice President Al Gore's wife, was the head of a public campaign to require music that was marketed to kids to have warning labels on them. None other than Frank Zappa was a star witness in Congress against that, favoring freedom of speech and freedom of expression. The next year, 1986, he testified at our own General Assembly in Annapolis on those same themes. And in 1990, as Czechoslovakia was opening up, coming out of the cloud of Soviet oppression, its intellectual president, Václav Havel, got Frank Zappa to come over for a month to advise the new country on free trade based on culture and tourism. Havel was a Zappa fan, and there were also Zappa fans in nearby Lithuania, which brings us to the next chapter of this story, and a gentleman named Salius Pakstis, I hope I'm saying that correct, a gentleman in Vilnius, and his friends who had latched on to Zappa as soon as Western music was available. They raised money and convinced the city council in Vilnius to erect a statue in Zappa's honor. and they hire one of the most prominent sculptors in Lithuania, a gentleman named Konstantinas Bogdanas. And so in 1985, a bronze head of Frank Zappa, this free speech, freedom of oppression from oppression star, stands on a steel pole in a park inside of Vilnius. The whole endeavor was seen as a test in this new country for freedoms, and the test worked. They got the statue. It became hugely popular, not just with Lithuanians, but from folks around the world. The group didn't stop there. They decided they wanted to continue raising money to hire the sculptor to do a replica statue and give it to someplace in the United States, Zappa's home country of birth. They had originally thought Los Angeles would be the right place. That's where he made his music. But we Baltimoreans are a dedicated lot, including one native son named Carlos Aranaga. He was a native Baltimorean working at the State Department in Vilnius at the time, and he was determined that the statue would belong best in Baltimore. And so he worked along with Zappa's widow, Gail Zappa, to get the statue here. And so with our Public Arts Commission approving the gift, after all, they paid for the statue, even the shipping, the question became where to put it. And there were strong opinions at the time. Some favored in front of the BMA, some favored in Mount Vernon next to the Washington Monument. There was a contingent in Fells Point that wanted the sculpture to be placed at the foot of Broadway. But the stars aligned for outside of this then new public library, the Southeast branch here in Highlandtown. Frank's mother, for example, was a librarian. Zappa himself was largely self-taught in libraries. He considered them essential parts of cities. And his widow, Gail, also supported here in front of the library. So in 2010, with Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake presiding, our friends from Vilnius in attendance, Frank's son Dweezil and his band Zappa Plays Zappa, playing in hundreds of Zappa fans. This second sculpture of the iconoclast Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an international symbol of freedom of expression, was erected here, a bronze head of Zappa on a stainless steel pole. So I'm going to wrap up by humbly suggesting that if Zappa dedicated at least a good chunk of his life to freedom of speech and freedom from oppression, if our good friends in Vilnius went through all of this trouble and effort to give us this gift, and with so many people around the world looking at Zappa as this great symbol, it is worth a few minutes of all of our time to come down here and pay tribute to the native Baltimorean who inspired so many around the world in his own very individualistic way. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.